Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Aaron Trevino here, and we have another wonderful guest. We have Mark from Dallas. How you doing, Mark?
Very good, thank you.
Absolutely. I know it's been an interesting ride these past few weeks. I know the first time we scheduled, there was a power outage, and then the snowstorm. So it's great to connect with you, Mark.
Yeah, we got through the freeze alive.
That's right. That's right. Well, so for those of us who aren't too familiar, Mark, would you introduce yourself, please?
I own and run about $100 million vertical and horizontal fully integrated development company, construction in the DFW marketplace that we built up in about from nothing in about 4 or 5 years. So it's been a very busy 4 or 5 years.
Wow, how about that? Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious as well, from a younger age, do you know that you always wanted to get into real estate, or, why this particular part of work?
I just knew I didn't want to work for anybody. I was that kid that ran the lawn mowing company when he was 12 years old and convinced his buddies to do it with him. So the longest I ever had a W-2 job, I think my record was 10 months. And if you're going to do what I do, that's kind of you need to be able to be okay with that. So my story's a little funny, a little different. Dad was, I always start with my parents because my father and mother married and had 13 children together. So I'm one of 8 boys and 5 girls, and Dad was a PhD chemist. And he quit his job at the top of DuPont corporate structure and because he couldn't get by on a PhD salary. And he flew to Dallas, this was back in the 80s, and he made more on his first real estate deal in 3 weeks than he did in his annual salary. And so he quit his job and called my mom and said, I'm not coming back, load the kids in a moving van. And she had 10 of the 13 kids by that point in time. And so she had to move, 10 kids across the country, and off to Dallas we went. And the rest is history. I actually didn't inherit a great, amount of money or my father's company. What I inherited from my father was a lot of chutzpah, a lot of, Dad had a very strange combination of both mercy and power. You find people that have power, but they're not merciful, they're not kind. And so we got a very unique training in how to be a go-getter that's merciful. And so, like when we turned 12 years old, Dad would hand us this book. I actually have a copy here called The Go-Getter. And he had the most beautiful calligraphy, and he would write a dedication in it. And he'd say, son, read the book. And he'd put a $100 bill inside. And he'd say, you can keep the $100 if you'll read the book. So we read this from the age of 12. And the story it's a great read. It only takes about an hour to read it. But it's a story about grit, determination, and getting it done at all costs, ethically and honestly. And in the story, there's this blue vase that's kind of the center of the whole story. And so we have in our main conference room, overlooking Waters Creek in Allen, we have a picture of Dad with his blue vase. And below is his quote, and it says, don't tell me how it can't be done, tell me how it can. And so that was the life theory or the creed that we grew up in.
I like that. Where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Absolutely.
No, and it's that's a neat story, not only about your family and your dad, but also I like that $100 bill story. Kind of, putting that into your mind from a young age, and it's gotten you to where you are now.
It's been a real journey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I find these stories so interesting, about the W-2. The W-2 jobs and then people transitioning out of those. But, for what you did, it can be very scary for people, to kind of step out of their comfort zone, get out of that W-2 job and kind of into the black abyss.
Well, I remember I graduated from the BYU Marriott School of Management, and I had an econ teacher, and he said one thing. He said, if you never remember anything about economics, remember one principle. He said, part-timers never beat full-timers. And so, I've got a lot of friends that are very calculating, engineers, accountants, very risk averse. And God bless them, there's room for everybody in life has their own gifts. But if you want to get into construction and development, at some point you have to make the jump and take the leap of faith. and you can get burned. I am very public about the fact that I went bankrupt at an early age in my career, and it was unfortunate, and I learned a great deal from it. And so, uh, yes, it was life changing, but so has been the experience of being self-employed, and you can do it with nothing. We built this company, my brother and I, from in a 4 to 5 year period. Um, I, I don't want to bore you, but let me tell you how it began. I was a real estate agent, and anybody wanting to get into being in construction development, a real estate agent job is a great place to start. And I closed about 4 to 6 times as many transactions as an average real estate agent. And I did it by thinking outside the box. And that's how you win in construction, is exploiting a niche that other people aren't exploiting. And so I would go after buyers. Everybody gets a real estate agent license, and what do? They go and talk to all their friends about, let me list your house, let me list your house, let me list your house. That's not where the money is. People that you list their house and they're so picky, no offense, but they're very demanding, and it's hard to please them, and you can't guarantee what price they're going to get unless it's a low market price that you know will hit. And there's no magical formula, that you can make it sell better than what the market's going to give. But if you'll flip the script and work with buyers, buyers are happy to have your free help, and they're happy to help them spend their money, and they're excited about the process. And so I made a great deal of money as a real estate agent helping buyers, and in so doing, I discovered an unexploited niche, and that's why we started a development company. We realized that people in this metroplex wanted a land product that didn't exist. Developers would not create a subdivision and sell the end product, a raw, completed lot that's buildable, to the public. And so we thought, if we do that, we'll be the only game in town. And so that's how we started. And we didn't even have any money to start with. I mean, I pay my grocery bills, but that was about it. So with some chutzpah and some faith, we convinced good people to loan us the money and bought our first project. And sure enough, it sold out in 48 hours. It was just 4 lots. And so then my brother says, well, that was a lucky stroke. I said, no, it wasn't. My phone's been ringing off the hook. People want land. So I said, let's do it again. So we did the next project, and we sold out 31 lots in 6 days. And so thus began the Cope Equities Development and Construction Company. And today we manage about 100 to 200 million in construction at a time. But it began with one little tiny $250,000 project. And banks are the same way. And I don't mean to take the whole conversation here. You'll have to forgive me, but it's just a fun topic. People don't realize that you can do it, and you have to think outside the box, and you can't think about like everybody else. There's no money in retail owning rentals. You might as well go put $200 a month in a 401k or in a Roth IRA, better yet, than buy residential rentals. People think, well, I'm going to get into real estate. I need to buy some rentals. No, you don't. The last thing you need to do is buy some rentals. And this is one man's opinion, because that's like kicking the wall until your ankle's ready to break. There's so much easier ways to make money in real estate than managing little single family rentals. And so we went to get our first loan, and I didn't have any business getting a loan at the time. But we had it all pre-sold, and we had down payment from some friends and family, as most people do. And we got our first $1 million loan. And since then, after that, we got a $2 million loan. And that was amazing. And then we got a $4 million loan. And then we got an 8 and 15 and so forth. And so in this industry, if you're going to get into construction and development, you have to start. That's the key. And then start something bigger, and then take your next step, and then take your next step. You're not going to jump in. Some people are like, well, I'm going to go put together a $100 million deal. Well, have you done a $10 million deal? Well, then you're not going to go put together a $100 million deal. Okay, so stop talking about foo-foo dust, and let's talk reality and what you can do today. Well, I'm going to go start a $1 million deal. Well, have you done a $200,000 deal? Well, let's do one of those first. And then let's do a $400,000 deal. And then let's do an $800,000 deal. And then let's do a $3 million deal, and so forth. And so in a short matter of a few years, granted, interest rates are very helpful. I wouldn't recommend this path in an environment of 10% interest rates. But in a matter of a few short years, one can build success and credibility one step at a time. So I'm sorry, what else can I tell you about the business?
No, absolutely. That was a beautiful explanation, Mark. And I'm curious as well, is it, I thought it was great how you, identified a need in the market and you fulfilled that need. You had people calling you off the hook. Um, I'm curious, why do you think that no one was offering at that time when you first started out, no one was offering what you started to offer?
It's difficult to develop land. There's a lot of paper lot flippers. More power to them. There's a lot of wholesalers that wholesale properties that don't actually put up their cash and buy them. But when you have to come up with the cash to create the actual asset in land development, it's difficult. That's what, and there's a lot of money in it. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It's high stress, it's fairly high risk, and it's high reward. And so it wasn't being done because there was no, we approached a unique niche in the market. We were selling 1 acre lot product to people at that time that wanted a place to put a manufactured home. Today we do all sorts of things. We build site-built homes at $500,000. We build apartment complexes at 20 or 30 million. But at the time we started, we found one little niche. And so it wasn't something easy to offer, and it wasn't a niche the big corporations or the titans that can cut $10 million checks left and right were going to even mess with. It wasn't even worth their time. That little, few $1 million available over in that niche. So just like with our houses, okay, we run a building company and we built it from selling 10 a year to 50 a year to 100, just like that, 1, 2, 3. How did we do it? We exploited a niche where we weren't competing against massive corporate conglomerates that could roast us. I don't want to compete against D.H. Horton. I don't have $1 billion or however many billions on my balance sheet. So we went out and thought outside the box again, and we built a 1 acre lot home. And not only did we build a 1 acre lot home, but we built it. If you look around Texas, I don't know how Austin is, but in Dallas, it's like there's this unspoken rule that if you're going to build a house, you have to use ugly brown brick and a 912 roof pitch. And so we threw that model away. I kid you not, you go look at new townhome projects. They're the most ugly combination of earth tones. You'd think it's 1970 driving through parts of Dallas today. And so we thought, throw that out the window. We're going to take a risk and build a dynamic, futurist, modern farmhouse, craftsman style, and put that out in colors that will pop and put it on an acre lot. And we're selling them like hotcakes on the 4th of July because we were able to think outside the box. So builders call me all the time. They're like, well, we want some land. We'll sell land to builders and not just build houses ourselves, but we'll sell land to other builders. And they all want these 40 and 50 foot lots because they want to maximize the density because they got to maximize the dollar. Forget the dollar. Okay, yes, it's got to be profitable, but if you have something that nobody else does, you're going to sell and people want, you're going to sell like hotcakes. So why not do, instead of these 5,000 square foot postage stamp lots, why not do 7,000, 9,000, third of an acre? And so, we'll take different angles like that and break the mold and the thinking. And then people are like, wow, they'll pay us top dollar because they want what we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess like anything else, the one who is able to offer, that good value proposition and a unique product, that's definitely, the market will reward you for it.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's interesting hearing this, kind of being one of the first people to offer this sort of service, whereas, everyone else was kind of thinking in this other box. They're seeing parameters where you're seeing opportunities.
Right. People ask me all the time. I was thinking when you were going to allow me to come do the podcast, and I appreciate the time, I was thinking, what do people ask me the most about my job? Because there's not a lot of family company developers out there. And we've been very blessed. We just praise God, we've been blessed, we're grateful for our blessings, that the classic American success story, where we went from nothing to this great company we're running today. And people often ask me, well, how'd you do it? The answer is I started one step at a time. And as fast as I could, I quit my job and jumped in with 2 feet, uh, you know, whatever the phrase is, without a parachute or whatever the phrase is, wear your parachute. You jump in wholeheartedly. And so sales is a great leapfrog into construction. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to go flip a house. That's how I'm going to start in real estate development. Okay, but that's like those real estate agents I told you about who are going to go list a house. Everybody wants to list your house. Everybody wants to flip your house. Every Tom, Dick, Harry, and his cousin's dog is a house flipper. And it has been made it such a competitive industry combined with the wholesalers that you're lucky to scrape out, 20 or 30 grand or 40 or 50 on a 6-month project that may go bust or may work. Flip the script, do something different. There's very little difference between flipping a house and building a house. So go learn the steps you're missing to put in that foundation and go build your first house. Watch how much easier it is to make a margin and to make a profit and to avoid problems when you started with new construction. And there's lots out there. You don't have to be D.H. Horton to go find a building lot. You can find a building lot and start with construction. You can build one house. It's a small down payment. And there's a lot of, the banks won't trust you the first time, but you can get your feet wet with a hard money lender and still make a profit. If you're paying 10% instead of 5%, you can still make it work. And do a few of those and then go to a bank and get your first one done at 5% interest. But so people tell me all the time, I'm going to go flip houses. And I just say, well, why don't you go and buy some single family rentals while you're at it? Because, you're not going to have much success in either market, in either niche. And I can hear people, saying, Mark, I'm successful in those niches. God bless you. It's just hard to be successful in those niches, in my opinion. They're overbaked, they're overcooked. And so you've got to exploit an area that's not being exploited, that's not as crowded. That's how you get started. And you got to quit your job and have the guts. I have so many engineers that call me and they want to be developers, but they're just not courageous enough to quit their job. Well, at some point, you got to quit your job if you want to be a developer, and those are the people that make it. It's not the people who dabble in it part-time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to be said for that. I guess, what was the metaphor you used? Without a parachute or jumping in with 2 feet?
Yeah, like that guy that is on I can't remember his name, the actor who runs the Family Feud show. He talks about how he got his big break in his career. And he said, I just jumped in with 2 feet. And everybody has that moment. And for me, it was, I had for a short time, one of those rare W-2 jobs, which I haven't had very many of. And I quit it on a business plan and a lot of chutzpah and faith of how I was going to go out and make money as a real estate agent. And when you have to win at no matter what the cost is, as long as you're honest and ethical, you'll win. You'll get what you focus on. So careful what you focus on, because you're going to get it. And if you focus on all the things and all the reasons that you're going to fail, you better believe you're going to fail. And if you focus on how you're going to make it happen, your belief will help create the fact.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see there's a big mindset shift there as well. And I'm interested as well. You talked about the wholesalers, the flippers, everyone out there wants to do these sort of things. Maybe the market's a bit saturated. Why do you think people don't have new construction on their radar?
The barriers to entry are a little higher. It takes solid effort to get that first construction loan. And people perceive of it as something that takes specialized education or training. In Texas, it does not. You do not need a general contractor's license to be a general contractor. There's not a test or an exam. It doesn't mean you don't have a business license and insurance, but there's not some GC exam in the state of Texas. So I think a lot of people also don't understand the first steps. Anybody can take a house that's framed and finish it, but it's that foundation, it's the engineering of the foundation and pouring the foundation and finding those low-cost providers. We cut our foundation costs in half. We didn't know when we started that we were overpaying. So it's the first part of the house that's difficult, and I think stops a lot of people from progressing.
Sure, absolutely. No, it's interesting kind of seeing this, I guess I call it a mindset shift, I guess, is that, when you use the words real estate, people will think, oh, well, you're buying or selling a house. But what you're saying is, you're encouraging people to kind of see the bigger world and the bigger picture.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a lot of ways to make money in real estate. So I just encourage people to, whatever the approach they're going to take, to go full time, if that's your intention. If you're just investing on the side, there's a lot of ways to do that as well. But if you really want to succeed and do it full time, at some point you have to make the jump and commit.
Sure, sure, absolutely. So, let's say that someone is either about to or already out of their W-2 job. They've already had maybe one, two, maybe three single family home, new construction deals under their belt. Where do you go from there? How are you kind of able to scale up from that to now?
That is a great question. In this state, and it depends on what metroplex they're in, you're going to go and do your first land deal and make the profit on the dirt and the house. So now you've got a double cushion. And the way you're going to do that is by it's really useful to have a real estate license so you can pull MLS listings. We probably find everybody says, oh, all the deals are off market. No, there's a ton of deals on MLS that are deals. You just have to go through 40 of them to find one. Excuse me. So you're going to find a small piece of land that's manageable, where you can do your first 10 lot subdivision or your first 4 lot subdivision. And then after you've done 4, you're going to do a 10 lot subdivision and a 20 lot subdivision. And you're going to go to that municipality and see if it's governed inside someone's city limits, inside of an ETJ, or inside of a county. Those are the 3 options. It's either in a city limit, or it's in a city's ETJ, which means you got to do what the city says, or it's in the county, you got to do what the county says. And you just ask questions. When we started building homes years ago, we didn't know the first thing about home building. We didn't come from a home building company. We didn't have any instruction manual. So we knew that when someone built a home, they called an excavator. So you know what we did? We called an excavator. And I said to him, what's next? He's like, what are you talking about? I said, what do you do after the excavation? He's like, you pour a foundation, dummy. I said, great, thanks. So I called the foundation guys. I said, hey, give me prices. And I got 3 bids. I said, what's next? They're like, what are you talking about? I said, who goes before you and who goes after you? He goes, well, before me, it's good if you do this prep before your excavation, and after the foundation, you're going to call your such and such guy. And I thought it would be the framer, but it was something before framing, and so forth, right? And I'd be calling my plumbers, and I'd say, well, do you like to come in before or after the HVAC guy? I didn't know, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so by asking 1,000 questions and being, there's a great quote. When we deal, it was by Thomas S. Monson. He said, when we deal in generalities, we shall never succeed. When we deal in specifics, we shall rarely have a failure. When specifics are recorded, performance improves. When specifics are recorded and reported, the rate of improvement is accelerated. So you get specific and you ask 1,000 questions and you believe you can do it, and the answers are out there. And there's all kinds of nice, friendly people that want to help you along the way. You're not going to fail if you're managing tight and right and doing your homework. And so many people just haven't been raised in that mentality that, we're kind of a cradle to grave W-2 society where if I don't have my health care and my 401k, I'm doomed. And you can't think like that if you're going to work for yourself in development or in construction.
Sure thing. I thought that was a wonderful quote. There's a lot to be learned from that.
Yeah, thanks. I had to memorize that many years ago. A good mentor gave me that.
Absolutely. No, that's definitely one I'm gonna keep in my pocket. It kind of goes back to, ask and you shall receive, really is kind of what you're saying, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, no, I love stories like this where you're kind of just putting one foot in front of the other and saying, what's next, what's next, what's next? And it almost kind of sounds like that 10,000 hour rule where you are now the expert.
No, exactly. Not only that, but it just, belief becomes magical. All of a sudden, you start to have a little success, you double down and do it again, and then your network. I used to think networking was like I didn't have that gift, because I'm an extrovert, but I'm kind of an introvert, and I just don't consider myself a master networker. Well, I've got a bigger network than I've ever had in my life. And it's just because you grow and you grow, and he knows him, well, she knows her, and she knows him, and we'll call this guy and call that guy. And you may want to talk to this. And then people are saying, well, call Mark Cope. And next thing you know, I've got a database of like, 30 or 40 good banks and a bunch of good engineers and a bunch of good architects and people I can call and get something like that I need because I'm loyal to them and they're loyal to me. And it just grows and grows. So
Sure, sure, absolutely. I guess it's kind of that compounding effect, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm curious as well. I guess you have this network of people. She knows him, he knows her, whatever it may be. Maybe someone's just they're in their job, they're looking to transition to real estate, they're starting out in real estate, they're looking to build their network. How do you go about building a good network of people and having a good people on your team?
That is a great question. Um, you can only work with your friends. You can't work with anybody that's got a chip on their shoulder. And so I learned earlier in my career, I had a lot of management opportunities in those jobs that I held for less than 10 months. And at one of them, I learned you can't train and fix two things: attitude and incompetence. And you're not trying to be rude. God bless everybody. Everybody's got a gift. But if you hire somebody and you find out that they've got a bad attitude, you can't fix that. You've got to cut them loose. And you have to fire them fast and just be done and say, hey, you're a wonderful person. God bless you. Love you. You're not the right fit for us. We're cutting you loose. And there's something wonderful out there for you. And then number two, you can't fix incompetence. You have to hire the people that know how to do the job. You're not going to train them into it. You're not going to train them to finally get it. That sounds harsh, but in business, the biggest lie is it's not personal. It's just business. There's a special, well, I shouldn't say that. There's a special place where it's really warm for people who say, it's not, I'm going to hurt you and it's not personal. It's just business. That's a lie. Everything's personal, but it's also business. That's how I changed the saying to make it true.
Yeah.
It's not, it's everything's personal and it's business. So be nice to people. It never works. Early in this business, I made some mistakes earlier in my career, and a banker would turn us down on something I thought was a ridiculous thing to get turned down for. And a few times I chewed out in an email, let them know how I felt about the situation. That was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my career. People never forget it. If you're negative, people never, and they rarely forgive it. We should forgive all men and all women their trespasses. But I kill business relationships. When someone here's one of the best things I can share. When someone tells you no, it's because God has something better for you. And it sounds cliche, but it is so true. Every time we got turned down for an investor or a loan or a bank loan or a bid that we put on a piece, it led us to the right door or window or direction. And so it takes practice for people who are the bright red personalities like myself. You got to practice humility and grace when somebody tells you no, and don't be a cocky, arrogant person. There's no place for that. And when you are kind to people, they'll come back around in a year or 2 years, and all of a sudden they're ready to do business with you, and because you left them with love and kindness instead of being, there's never a place for snide remarks in business. And all of us in this day and age, with the 24-hour news cycle that sells a lot of hate mongering on both sides of the political spectrum, there's just no place for that in business. The more kind you are, the faster your name will spread for good like wildfire. And so I knew that, but it took me a while to implement it. It's hard to be kind when someone throws a bucket of water on your fire. And the more kind you are, the more your fire will burn.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of value in that. There's there's a lot to be said for this new, I guess, age of communication that we're in right now. I mean, where it's easy to send that harsh text or that harsh email, but it's you're talking about kindness and doing the right thing.
Yeah, we always say around the office, type it and then delete it. Print it and then go put it in the shredder. So anyway.
Sure. No, there's a lot to be said for that. I think that's great. And, it's interesting how kind of you were talking about building and scaling, literally and metaphorically, right? Kind of building upon your experiences and putting one foot in front of the other and getting the job done.
Right. Absolutely. And it's hard. It's not all flowers and roses and sunshine. And life is meant to have adversity. That's how we grow. That's why we're here on earth, is to learn and to be tested and to do good. So, we have to practice being of a believing mindset when all heck breaks loose and our world turns upside down. Can we stay steady? And it's amazing how fast things can turn around back to the right direction.
That's right. You brought up an interesting point about you having that believing mindset. In kind of this hard time that we're going through. Not with economic uncertainty, a lot that's been going on recently. Maybe someone's a bit discouraged about maybe job prospects, or discouraged about the market, or discouraged even about real estate. What would you tell them?
Never, never, never give up. It sounds so cliche, but it's just true. I'm a very open person. I share with even my employees know that I went through a bankruptcy early in my career, and unfortunately, but I learned so much, and I learned that you just you can be in a dark place, and there's always hope. And if you refuse to stop hoping, and if you will not complain about your circumstances, things will change. All of these things give us experience and are for our good. And we'll overcome them, and we'll be wiser and better and greater and more intelligent on the backside, on the other side of the adversity. And so thank God for adversity. Not that we want it all the time, but it makes us better. So just never give up. That's, look at it from another angle. Find a way to increase your income. It will change your whole trajectory. So focus on specifics. When it started for me, I got into real estate licensing, and I made goals. And I told you I flipped the script and went after buyers. I bought a bunch of leads. I spent more on leads than entire teams combined of 5 and 10 people, just for myself. So I had more at-bats than anybody. I was having 30 people a day call me because I was spending something like, I don't even remember, something like $500 a day or something per business day. I don't remember. I was spending a lot of money, 10 grand a month on leads just for one person. And I knew mathematically that if I could just have those at-bats, I'd hit the cover off the ball. But I had to think, I'm going back a step, sorry, I'm jumping all over here. I had to think about, okay, I need more income. How am I going to get it? How am I going to specifically go get it? And it doesn't matter, even if you're W-2 and that's your world, how are you going to increase your income? Because you get to a certain point, the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay, so you don't want to love money, but you've got to provide. We're meant to live comfortably. We're not always meant to be starving and living paycheck to paycheck. So your life can really improve emotionally. You've got more bandwidth to think and to calm down when your needs are met. So if that's a problem for you, then focus on what you can do, even if you're a W-2 person. Okay, how can I get a better job? What training do I need, or what schooling do I need to get an XYZ job? Or in sales, what's going to be the easiest thing to sell that I can be successful at? And as you start to hit those benchmarks, you'll see that your stress level drops as your income rises. Now you can start to think, because you're not living paycheck to paycheck, and you can start to plan, and you can start to make business plans and grow. And anyway.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said for that, especially I kind of call it tunnel vision, right? Maybe when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're having a lot of external stress, maybe follow you into the office, follow you into the workplace, it can really wear you down.
It can, and then you can take it home to your family, and that's not good. And nothing's more important than family, and so you've got to keep a balance as you approach that.
Sure, sure. You brought up a great word is balance. You know, when you think of real estate development, you think of high risk, you think of numbers, you think of you know, a big operation. How do you keep yourself organized?
We hire good people and and let them do their jobs. And so then when you hire people you know you can count on and they're competent in their assigned portion of the business, it makes a world of difference. Um, you know, and then you just set your priorities and go after it. But it's important to keep a balance with church and family and not have the business overcome your life. I've known people with a $30 million net worth, a $100 million net worth, a $10 million net worth. And after their bills were paid and they had a little bit excess, I'm talking down at 100 grand a year, not a million. There's no massive increase in happiness. It sounds so cliche, but it's just true. There's happiness in giving. There's not happiness in, okay, I've got a $5 million net worth now, I'm happy. No, you're the same person. You can't change your spirit. You're not going to change your spirit at church. You're not going to change it because you made $5 million, you know? So you just got to keep, you know, we got to be careful what we love because we're going to get it. So be careful what you love because you're going to get it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It almost kind of reminds me of you know, they've done studies on Olympians, right, at the Olympics, where you'll have the, you know, the gold medalist, that first place winner, and then they'll do studies on the second and third place winners. So maybe the guy in second place would think, darn, I could have been in first. Or the guy in third place thinks, wow, hey, I'm just thankful to be here on the podium, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just perspective, right? So there's always something to be grateful for. Gratitude is an incredible engine of success and the opportunity, the law of attraction. Gratitude is an incredible engine for the law of attraction.
Sure, absolutely, Mark. I mean, I'm definitely impressed with, you know, a lot of your insight, your business accomplishments, but I'm also really impressed with your mindset as well. Are there any daily practices that you do maybe for your mindset, any particular books you read, or how do you keep yourself sharp?
That's a great question. Without delving in too deeply, I'm LDS, so church is a big one for me, and keeping God at the center of my life is a big one. I've been married 21 years. There's incredible happiness in marriage, and have 6 children, and that's where the joy is. But in terms of staying sharp, and I find that when I'm stressed, I've been training for a triathlon, and it can be incredibly helpful to take your stress out in terms of endorphins, physical exercise. And sometimes you just have to take a vacation and know when to turn it off and let it go. So, great question.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I guess everyone always needs some time to decompress, whether it's taking that vacation or, you know, getting those endorphins in a triathlon.
That's right.
Absolutely, Mark. Well, you know, is there anything you haven't said this far you'd really just like to hammer home?
No, I think I'm afraid I spoke too much, but thank you for the time. You've got a great network that I've followed, Aaron, and people are human. You know, we all need a hand up at times. And I just want to close with a quote. One more. Sorry, I got all these funny quotes. I sound like I'm self-righteous and preaching. I don't mean it that way. But this is a great one. This is the best one I have, probably, or one of the best. And it says, I believe the test of a great man is humility, or woman is humility. I do not believe humility means, see, I'm messing up in the moment. He says, I believe the test of a great man is humility. I do not believe humility means like power or pride, but really, truly great people have a curious feeling that greatness is not in them, but through them. And they see the divine in every other person and are endlessly, foolishly, incredibly merciful. Okay, so let me give you an example. This law of attraction stuff is real. Last week, I had remembered that when we started our company and we were broke at the beginning of our company years and years ago, there was a $3,000 invoice that we couldn't pay, and it went unpaid. And the man never came after us for it. He was merciful. Okay. So I called him up on the phone and I said, I just remembered I owe you $3,000 from years ago, and I never paid it. He said, you wouldn't believe how often I get these kinds of phone calls. He said, that's really great. So I've got to drive next week. I'll be going to past his office, and I'm going to drop him off a check for $3,000. And I do that, right? I make that call to him, and I make the commitment to bring an old check. 2 days later, we get a phone call from a guy who says, I've owed you a lot of money for a long time, and I want to bring you $500,000 and settle up. You know? And so when you choose mercy instead of justice, we've had opportunities to sue people that we haven't capitalized on. It just comes back to you like bread on the water. The law of mercy is reciprocal. And if you'll show mercy to others as you're climbing that ladder, others will show mercy to you. So I would leave your listeners with that. And my phone is always at your disposal. It's personal for me. So if you've got some listeners that really want to talk, pick up the phone, call me. Cope Equities is easy to find on the internet. It's Cope Equities. It's very simple. And I'd be happy to answer anybody's questions in your network that wants to chat for a bit, because I know what it feels like to try and start out.
Sure thing. Absolutely. We absolutely, appreciate your time and appreciate the words and the insight. And we've talked a lot about not only about your background, your mindset, a bit about construction development, scaling up, starting out. So it's been a real pleasure, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate your network. Have appreciated following it, and wish you the very best.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.